Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
The Roses were living the dream.
To you, my darling.
No, to you.
Until it all came crashing down.
He got fired.
Fired?
On August 29th, stop.
You stop!
And see The Roses. Rated R. In theaters everywhere, August 29th.
And welcome back to the Boundary Corner podcast. Along with my partner, Brian Siegler, I am Curtis Wilson. We are a part of the College Huddle Network. And this episode, as always, is brought to you by Dr. Jeremy Counts down at Counts Family Pharmacy, 301 South Main Street, Blacksburg, Virginia. Counts Family Pharmacy, your friendly neighborhood pharmacy. Buddy.
What's up, man?
Man, I'm tired, dude. I'm just going to just straight up say it. I'm tired right now.
You got the grind before the cruise. You hitting
grind
that
before the cruise. Works and doing a training at work this week, man. Like right up to the last second before the cruise, getting everything ready for the cruise. Birthday parties, my kid's birthday party, neighbor's kid's birthday party, baseball. I know you got stuff going on too.
Yeah, man. It's been a busy week. Been a bit busy last few weeks trying to get some stuff checked off at work. Trying to get some busy with son's got sports going on now. We're kind of ramping up for spring ball now. So it's we've had some other side discussions and stuff like that on that topic. So I mean it's been a busy time. Excited to finally get back together here on air. Air it out a little bit.
Air it out. Back to the dynamic duo.
Yeah, but we are missing Tally tonight. He's got a lot going on his plate too. So
baseball, kids, work.
Yep, we couldn't get a night where all of us could get on. So we're like, if we don't pull the trigger now, we might not get another one in before the spring game. So
100%.
Here we are.
Yeah, Shelton on hiatus. Our buddy, Coach Robbie Compton, heading to Chalk Talk in less than 48 hours. We might have to convince him to come on when we get back.
I think so.
Josh, what am I sipping on tonight? Tonight, I am sipping on Scotch. You know what Scotch it is, right, Brian? Think about it in the bar downstairs.
Is it the blended?
No. It's the Kirkland. It is the Costco Scotch.
All right.
So For those who may live in South Carolina or Maryland, go to Costco, get you a bottle of the Black Label Kirkland Scotch. My neighbor Andrew down the street recommended it years ago. Basically, it's a Johnny Walker Black, and it's like $50 for a handle. We drink it. Brian's had it. He knows it's good.
Oh yeah. You know what?
What's
hey,
that?
it's cheap, but
It's not cheap. It's
cheap for what it is.
There you go. It's cheap for what it is. Exactly. And by the way, Brian, the vodka we had last summer,
Yep.
what, $12 for a handle? And it was legitimately a Hyper-N. Yes, we'd love for Costco to sponsor our show, Josh. I would love that. They could come right along with Jeremy, you know.
That's right. I mean, give me a free membership and a hot dog anytime I want it, even though it's only $1.50. I'll save that $1.50 and we'll call it a day.
They could get probably everybody in this program. They gave us all one. Definitely, we could definitely pull the trigger.
Yeah, is there like a Costco black card or something that I can get?
Exactly. Yeah, but like Brian said, we're doing this tonight because we needed to punch it before we are not here next week. We likely are going to be able to do a spring show. Literally, we're going to be hanging out on a cruise all week together. We're probably going to be writing the show line by line. And
the GoPro's coming with me, so I might sprinkle in some live footage next week. Next time we punch it. So
I don't know if we need that, man.
Depends on what it's going to be and what we say and what we do. We'll see if it's quality. We'll see if it's I mean, we're not necessarily safe for work here, but it's a cruise, so I mean, shit can get wild.
Yeah, 50 is cheap for a handle, Robbie. But let's break it down. What are we doing tonight? Well, we had not truly talked about the complete makeup of the staff. We had French on just a couple weeks ago to go through kind of the new scheme, what we were expecting, but we never had that chance to talk about, well, what does new staff look like? We talked about some of the hires here and there, but what are our takes on it? And we wanted to break into that tonight. Then we wanted to break into, obviously, what came out a little earlier this week with basically the new roster, the new height, weight measurements, seeing all that. We've also seen some tapes. Shout out Colby, Andy, David, put them out there, some takes from what's going on inside practice, a couple things that piqued our interest. But we're going to unload just quite a few things tonight. And Brian, let's just start overall with the staff changes. I want to start on defense because that's the first one we did. Everybody knows we've hired Sam Cephas as the defensive coordinator. As of right now, what is it, March 25th?
March 26th.
2025, year of our Lord. This is how the staff shakes out. And Sam Cephas does not have a position title. He is defensive coordinator, what we expect to be a walk-around defensive coordinator. Now, let's go real quick, just hit the rest of the staff and talk about some things. J.C. Price still here, associate head coach, defensive line coach. Derek Jones, Cheetah still at corners. Pearson Prelude, still the safeties coach. Sean Quinn is now the outside linebackers coach. Xavier Adibi, X to the Z, call him X, however you refer. He is now the inside linebacker coach. With the two new hires, Jerry Wilson, who came up from Georgia Southern, I believe he was Georgia Southern. I have to pull my notes on him real quick. Who played under Sam Cephas as a defensive lineman down at Wofford, is the edges coach. Brian Whitehead, he coached defense with Cephas down at Wofford, is the nickels coach. And obviously, if you look at the chart, there are a plethora of just defensive assistants laying all around, JGW, safeties. You're looking at DeVault Smith, cornerbacks, Jansen Johnson Jr., D-line. So a plethora of assistant coaches on here. Brian, I want to ask you this first. When everything finally came down, I think me and you've been speculating. Were you shocked that there were no additional movement on the defensive staff? Everybody who was here, with the exception of Chris Marv, is still here.
I think so. If I'm circling a spot on the field that I'm surprised that this person still is coaching that unit. Given what we know about Cephas, given what we know about what he's bringing to a table from a role that the safeties play in the defense, I was expecting someone different at that spot. And that's not to say that Pearson can't get it done, but I think a combination of, having less prior experience, not being the best unit last year, doing something different with the safety unit this year, I thought that was going to be a prime time to him transition back into more of a, not necessarily off the field role, but a more behind the scenes role in this staff. And we didn't see it. And that's not to say it's something to be, to Josh's point here, something to be concerned about. I'm interested to see, Sam is going to be a walk around DC, but is he going to spend a healthy majority of that time working with the safeties? I know he's a guy that he's coached linebackers, he's coached safeties. I mean, he's got the understanding, I think, to, inform those position groups to a healthy degree. But that's definitely probably the most interesting position, because I think it's the one we expected to see movement in. And when you look at a guy like Jerry Wilson, who is coming into Coach Edge's, played edge, but also was primarily a safeties coach during his coaching tenure, I think that's where we saw, is he the guy, or is he going to be kind of another guy in that room? And ultimately that's not where it went.
It's really interesting because the thing is, a lot of people are saying, well, you feel for Cephas because it's not his staff, but then you start looking around and, well, I don't think he would have let J.C. Price go. I'm just going to be for real. In my opinion, there are three guys he would not have let go on this staff. J.C. Price is one of them, Xavier's one of them, and Quinn's one of them. If you had told me Cheetah was let go or Pearson moved to a different role, I would not have been shocked. But I kind of sit here back and think about it. We're at a day and age where this can be done, because let's think about it. We now can do unlimited coaches, right? You can have unlimited amount of coaches. So if you're going to be transitioning, why go ahead and rip everything out when likely what you could do is make it a 1 to 2 year transition? Think about that.
What's up, Will?
What's going on, Will? But think about that, Brian. You're trying to make everything smooth. Guys like Sam is trying to learn the team. If you got everybody in place, and again, X being with the linebackers last year, getting to know the players quicker, getting to know their attributes, getting to know their weaknesses, their strengths, he's not relying on all new eyes. Even in the safeties room, right? Even in the corner room. So I think that's why this was done. I'm going to have a question in a little while concerning recruiting. Let's see. Is Edge not really outside linebacker now? And, well, that's the question, Robbie, that we're going to probably be asking up to the spring game is, like, for example, is there going to be could there be, Brian, you go back to what we talked about with French and just kind of looking at it yourself, could edges be guys playing the 5-tech, not playing outside that? And that's more outside linebacker responsibility if we go to a 3-man front.
I mean, I know we're going to get to it, but the stuff we've seen, I'm seeing a whole lot of kind of 2-4 fronts, 2 down, 4 linebacker. You got an edge that stand up that's really almost like a, playing in a lot of ways like a 3-man front outside linebacker. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Prize said it's going to be a multiple defense. I expect it to be a multiple defense. You've got a lot of positional, I think, fluidity there, because you're going to have guys that are playing the edge that are going to, kind of be lining up in different positions depending on what the front call is. Whether it's more of a odd front in those nickel packages, I think remains to be seen, and how that impacts who's coming off the field. More than likely a defensive lineman in that case, but maybe not. I guess we'll see as things progress and we start to get some more tape on what defenses they're in alignment in outside of base, which seems to be a 2-4-5 alignment from everything we've seen so far.
Yeah. The other thing, and I don't know if this was a shock, but I think it's a big vote of confidence that Xavier is moved to an inside linebacker role. That is his position. That is the position he played in college, in the NFL. It's the position he's coached. I think, and a lot of people will say, well, that could be pride pushing it. I do believe that if Cephas did not believe he could coach a position, I think he would have said he needs to say assistant, and we would have seen Quinn move over. I think that might have been my biggest shock, was he is the inside linebacker coach. He is going to be coaching Woodson. There's going to be Woodson, Keller, Clatterbaugh, and I know I'm missing a couple guys' names right now off the top of my head, but he is going to be those primary guys' coaches. And I like that because it's basically two guys, and sometimes one if we go to a 3-high look.
Yeah. Let me ask this. So we got, and I think the even in the new like meeting rooms, like they've got the positions on there, but now we got these like different position groups, right? So we got Quinn is outside linebacker, X is inside linebacker. Are they running a linebacker media session together? Are they splitting that up? I'm trying to think about when you're having a film session with your group. Are we looking at splitting that out into a smaller group, or are we looking at Quinn and X are going to be
in that room,
pretty much running the linebacker group as a combination? They've got these titles attached to them, but they, for better or worse, are the linebacker and co-linebacker or assistant linebacker coach or whatever the hell you want to call it here. Those two are coaching the linebackers. And then, you've got Jaree with edges. I'm guessing he's going to be in there with JC, but
or is he going to be in the outside linebacker?
But maybe not. Is he going to be in there with Quinn and X? I think that's where my head goes when I'm looking at this. Like, I think it's pretty safe to say, you're going to put Whitehead in there with Pearson. I think there's a good amount of overlap there in terms of what you're looking at on tape. Obviously, Nickel's going to have some cornerback responsibilities as well, and a lot of coverage related aspects. But it's really going to be like having an extra safety, and that's really where where it makes sense for me. But I'm interested from a just schematically how this is going to be handled, because I'm not sure exactly what. I feel like the roles have been defined well here, but I just don't know
where's everybody
because of how much positional flexibility there is. I'm not sure exactly how they're planning on dividing up those smaller group off the field coaching sessions.
Well, yeah, because like you said, edges could be in line with JC, or could outside linebacker, edges, and defensive line be all in the same room together?
And is X going to have his group together, and then you're going to have Quinn and Jaree Wilson, with their groups together? And is it going to be a mix and match depending on what the specific install is for that week?
Exactly. But then think about this:
practice, you go to whatever it is.
Well, you go to the 3-high safety look, and I know you're gonna you correct me on this, but there are times a certain position, the certain safety that is the closer to the box, and you've seen the alignments. It's almost like they're an outside linebacker, right? They're almost playing the old star position, the old whip position. Could they be going in the linebacker room doing cross training? Because of where they're aligned, it's like they're not really doing safety stuff. It's the combination of doing linebacker and safety responsibility, right? are they going to go in there? Because we have rooms overlapping a ton this year.
Yeah, and I mean, we had some of that in the system last year, but I think the lines have been blurred a lot more, not only with the way they're handling the staff, the way that we have recruited, especially in the portal this last year as well. There's a lot of position fluidity. I know, Coach Pry has always preached having positional fluidity and being able to play at multiple positions and things of that nature. And I think it's not so much that this guy can be this and this. I think we have a lot of guys that it works in our favor for them to be kind of hybrids, because there's certain positions that, at least if not historically, certainly recently, that we've had trouble recruiting.
Yes.
And I think this gives us a little bit of an advantage from that standpoint, because we can bring in highly rated tweeners all fucking day.
Yes, we can.
We've struggled at bringing in the true Mike. We've struggled at bringing in that true nose that can be dominant. We've struggled at bringing in a safety that can really bring the damn hammer.
Yeah.
While still being able to cover. And this gives us, some of that flexibility, I think, to kind of fill in those gaps a little bit.
So that is kind of what's got to happen. And I mean, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but let's get back to what you were mentioning a few minutes ago. From the alignments videos we've seen, and again, these are short clips. It's not everything, and it's what effectively the coaching staff wants the media and the public to see. In your head right now, what we're going to see, not only spring game, but about 6 months from now, I actually take that back, 5 months from now, because it's basically April. Are we looking at a 2-4 front?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be your base package, is going to be a 2-4.
Where could you tell in that one clip? I think Colby had it. Where are the defensive linemen? What techniques are they, from what you could see? And I know it was that weird side angle, but what technique were they at?
I mean, it looked like a 3 and probably a 1 or a 2-eye. More than likely a 2-eye. I'd have to look at the clip again to confirm, but I don't think a ton is going to change, at least in the base alignment, from what we were doing last year on the inside. I think everything is going to get interesting. Is how are those two edges how are they going to be deployed? And then when you switch up the front to an odd front, what does that look like?
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Business owners, meet Progressive Insurance. They make it easy to get discounts on commercial auto insurance and find coverages to grow with your business. Quote in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company. Coverage provided and serviced by affiliated and third-party insurers. Discounts and coverage selections not available in all states or situations.
Dealing with hidradenitis suppurativa, HS, is tough. But you're not alone. Before I started Cosentyx, I looked at the website and saw it had many years of clinical research. That made me feel confident.
Cosentyx secukinumab is prescribed for adults with moderate to severe hidradenitis suppurativa, HS. Don't use if allergic to Cosentyx. Get checked for TB before starting. Increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur, like TB or other serious bacterial, fungal, or viral infections. Some were fatal. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms like fevers, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, had a vaccine or plan to, or if IBD symptoms develop or worsen. Serious allergic reactions and severe eczema-like skin reactions may occur. Learn more at 1-844-COSENTYX or Cosentyx.com.
Don't wait. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
Curtis, are you talking? Because you're on mute.
I'm running my mouth like crazy over here. What I was saying is, with the interior defensive line, we've always had that one attacking, usually quick twitch. That's Aeneas Peoples last year, acting upfield. Do you think we see a difference this year, or do you think it's more of we're going to see the same, but there may be times where it's not attacking? Because from what French told us, from what we've seen, is that defensive line is to eat up blockers, to stop guys getting to the second level so the linebackers and safeties can pounce.
I'm interested to see what it's going to look like. Based on what he was saying in the tape he watched, and on most of the tape he was watching was odd front as the base. So we're kind of in uncharted territory where I don't know if it's going to be kind of a blend of kind of what Cephas has done in other spots and what JC and others on this line have taught historically, and kind of a blend of that, or if there's going to be, very much Cephas footprint across the whole thing out the gate here. From what Cephas has said, it sounds like he's going to be very adaptable, not only to the strengths of the roster, but also the strengths of the staff.
Yes, he did say that with Damon down with the Roanoke Times. So the only thing we can do is we can now sit and watch. Obviously, having someone going to these clinics, we'll be definitely picking his brain. And then, we're right around the corner from the spring game and seeing it in person. So it will be interesting. Brian, let's flip to the offensive side of the ball.
We're going to touch on that here in a little bit, Josh.
Yep, we will be touching on that when it comes to looking at some games. But let's talk about the offense. Obviously, Philip Montgomery, offensive coordinator, currently, as of today, March 26th, not titled with a specific room. Matt Moore, obviously, offensive line. Fontel Mazzi, assistant head coach, wide receivers. Brooks still the running back. Brian Christ is now the co-quarterback coach. I think it was the assistant quarterback coach. Brent Davis getting moved to tight end. Stu Holt now officially the special teams coordinator as an offensive assistant. Again, boatload of assistants, including Montgomery's son, Cannon, who's going to be an assistant running backs coach. And let's talk about the staff for a second first. I think this is what we expected, probably maybe even if Tyler Bowen had stayed.
Yeah, I think this is kind of where things were moving regardless of who the ultimate offensive coordinator was going to be. I think you've set yourself up in a better spot with Montgomery because, so I'll say two things here. When you look at Chris' title, he's still co-quarterback coach. So while Philip Montgomery does not have a official position attached to his name, he is the de facto quarterback coach here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, otherwise you would call Chris the quarterback coach, just like they called X the inside linebacker coach, or, whatever on the other side of the ball. He would have been given some sort of full range of that title.
Yes.
So that's denoting that Montgomery is, if not going to be exclusively in the quarterback room, is going to be primarily in the quarterback room.
Yep, 100% on that. And what about the Stu Holt move? Do you like now? Huh?
I was calling for it last year.
We called it last year, but they did it.
They did it. They did it.
And now, effectively, Virginia Tech, in some essence, has a pseudo NFL model.
Yeah, and I think when you look at Montgomery's scheme, Brent Davis at tight end makes a lot of sense here because there's not going to be a ton of tight end usage in the passing game. It's going to be a lot more blocking focused. So Chris having that title, I think, is going to be, a good thing for the tight end production standpoint, at least from a run game perspective. And I think that's potentially good news for wide receivers as well, because there's going to be more opportunities for them to get involved in the passing game.
All right. No, let me flip to that. What do you think this offense is going to look like right now? Like, is this going to be – I don't think this is full Baylor 2011. Let's just go with that. But where do you think it's landing? Because everybody keeps screaming Auburn, Auburn, Auburn. But as Tally told us, he won't run his offense at Auburn.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a version of what we saw at Baylor. I think it's going to be – there's going to be some tweaks to that. I think the thing that stood out to me, and I mean, it was reflected some, at least – let's talk about this. When we talk about Auburn, I think that the fingerprints were not his on the offense from a scheme standpoint, but when we look at the pace of play, and I think he's talked about this, he's like, I know that sometimes you got to have a first and a second gear. You can't go, you can't be in fourth and fifth the whole game.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to be in first and second. You got to throttle it down. You got to be able to understand the situation of the game and react to that. And if you look at the splits on the number of plays at Auburn, he's still way above the NFL average, but it was his lowest per play average of his career. I think that is indicative of probably what we're going to see here. Again, you're still talking about someone else's fingerprints being on the offense from a scheme standpoint, and that probably hindered the output. But I think from a pace of play standpoint, you can expect something similar from Auburn's side of the coin there, but a lot more from a schematic standpoint of what we saw at Baylor.
Got you. Let's put this guy up here because it has been a while, Jason, since SWVA has checked in. Hope you guys are doing well down there. And I'm going to put this up for Robbie. Robbie, you are correct in that sense, but I know Gosnell's not your perfect split out wide tight end, but he does have a decent set of hands, so maybe he's still involved in other aspects. Let me ask this, Brian. I think I mentioned this maybe 6 weeks ago, but you've been watching more tape. What excites you most about like the concepts of what you've looked at Baylor, you've looked at Tulsa. I'm not sure if you've got Josh talking about looking at the Birmingham UFL stuff, but when you see this and know some of the players we have, you got, guys like Donovan Green, Aiden Green, you've got Cam Seldon coming in. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. He was mentioned in one of Prize pressers this week. What excites you most about, like, when you see that and you start picking, like, man, that's this, you start connecting all the dots. What excites you most?
I mean, honestly, you just mentioned his name. Cam Seldon excites me. And I think looking at what he could be in this offense excites me. Having that gadget style player, guy in the slot that, much like Jay Lane, plays it like a running back, because, I mean, Seldon was a fucking running back. And Lane had that mentality of a running back mentality from the slot receiver position. And this is a scheme that I think is going to get the slot a lot more involved than I think we saw last year. When we look back to kind of 2023 compared to 2024, we saw Jay Lane line up outside a whole lot more in 2023, and that's where he made his hay. And I think some of the scheme and the calls kind of limited what we were looking at. So I think Lane's production was limited. I think in Monty's system, the slot receiver is going to have a big opportunity to eat and do a lot of things in space, and have that running back mentality, but still less of that stuff that is behind the line of scrimmage, which we saw a ton of in Tyler Bowen's system. So you're not going to see the jet sweeps. You're not going to see those as many screens to the slot, but you will see the ball quickly in the slot's hands, 3 to 5 yards, 3 to 8 yards downfield, and let him do what he does best.
Perfect, Brian. And again, we look more forward to just seeing the tape as we start getting it. All right, let's kind of get ready to close this segment out. And and all y'all listening out there, putting on the comments in the chat, we appreciate that as always. So you tell me, because the way it looks, we've got an NFL-style system. Coordinators likely not going to recruit. Brent Pry and which 10 assistants are you putting on the road? And if y'all want to put in the chat year 10, go for it. So, Brian, I'll give you the floor first.
All right. So you got Pry, you got JC, you got Cheetah. I think Quinn, obviously, he's the road dog, man. He's the road dog, breaking bread Hokie style. He's got to be on the road. And you know, then it comes down to, are you sending Pearson, you send an X. I think I'm sending X on the defensive side of the ball. You know, flipping it over to offense. Obviously Fontel, Matt Moore, Elijah Brooks. And so it kind of comes down to.
Well, you only named 4 on defense, Brian. You technically get 5.
Plus Pry.
No. Pry, you get. It's 11 total.
11 total.
Yeah, it makes, yeah.
Do I want to send? Give me Wilson.
Okay. All right.
And other side of the ball, I think that makes it pretty easy. I mean, Fontel, Matt, Elijah, Chris, and Brent.
All right. I am on board with you completely on the offense. I think Stu Holt will get to just hang out, scheme special teams up all week, help out Montgomery as the assistant. Defense, I'm one different. I think Prelude's going to stay one more year because I think it's going to be the transition year. And again, Pry's always talking about let's build the relationship. I don't think they'll just pull Pearson off for this class, maybe not even next class. But they're going to start working in maybe Wilson, maybe Whitehead. I don't know their backgrounds well enough. I know the ages. Wilson is a significantly younger guy. So that usually always transitions to, you feel like, more relatability to the players on the road. Yep. But I think Pearson's going to stay there this year. And the funny thing is, that question has not been asked. And I thought someone would have asked it at least once we hired Monty. Now, by all means, could Montgomery be a road recruiter? Yeah, he could. And they leave Brian Chris at home. But I think the focus this year is we've got to get the scheme right. We've got to get the players right on campus. Why not keep your coordinators off the road during the weekdays, not worrying about the recruiting trail, just focusing on that. So,
and I know that that's been a model that a lot of big schools have kind of moved towards, is kind of moving away from a full-time recruiting coordinator and more to, I'm the scheme guru, I'm the closer, because I'm the guy that can best illustrate how players will fit into a scheme and where they could shine, where you can highlight their talents, things of that nature. But that's not necessarily the guy that you need in the living room. That's a guy that, you know, once you get a guy, he's on campus, you know, he you know, you go see him at a camp, you know, whatever it may be, you can kind of close the deal there. But I'm excited about just to see how, and I'm with you, Curtis, because I'm shocked that the question hadn't been asked yet, because I feel like that's a big piece of the puzzle that, you know, we just don't know yet. And I mean, and it took a while for the staff to shake out. So I don't know if it's something that's going to come in due time or what, but again, I'm shocked it hasn't really been a question that was at the forefront of folks' mind when they were talking to Pry.
Yeah. And again, I think some people look at it just so much like right on top of what are they going to do while they're here. And it's like, well, there's a bigger game And I know high school is not what it was, even 5 years ago with the portal, but you still, even with the portal visits, there is still a chance to go in-home or go to other schools. Effectively, if you're not one of the staff members that have been assigned to the road recruiting, the only place you can recruit is on campus in Blacksburg. You cannot recruit elsewhere. So throw this up here. Robbie, right, kind of in line with me, I should say. But it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. And do you like the structure overall? It seems like you do.
Yeah, I mean there's a little bit of nebulous there between like Quinn and Wilson as far as and maybe even Whitehead as far as who's coaching what.
Yeah.
Like, and we've kind of talked about that a little bit already tonight, but I think from an overall structure standpoint, I think it's a good staff. I think they tweaked what they needed to tweak. I'm the only thing I'm concerned about, I think, is going to be, do we have the guys on staff now that can get the safeties where they need to be in those 3 high looks?
Yep, 100% right. So there that is, kind of taking we had been 10,000 feet, kind of getting more on what this staff looks like for this upcoming season. Again, so many things to shake out between now and August and that first game down in Atlanta. So it is going to be interesting to see. So let's keep moving and let's get to the roster updates where, I mean, it's that time of year, right, Brian? Height, weight look. What's the New Jersey numbers? Whose body looks different when you see them in pictures? So we're going to go through that. We're going to do it just a little bit different. And we're going to kind of go through the guys who were here before, and we're going to then talk about the transfers in general coming in and kind of what they're looking like. But, Brian, let's talk about the guys who are here before. Let's start with the cornerback room. As you kind of look through the big list there of the guys returning, who jumps off the page to you?
Seeing Dante Lovett hit that 2 bill mark definitely that jumped out at me pretty quick.
Yeah, he was 190 last year, so a full 10-pound gain. And what do you think that just says about his body type now and what you saw on the field and now him with 10 extra pounds?
I mean, I think it's identifying, a weakness that he may have had and addressing that. I think, he's a guy that I think needed a little bit of extra muscle, especially in those, press situations. I think he's going to be asked to do a little bit more tackling in Seifkes' system versus Marv's system. So I think it's a combination of those things, knowing he had to get his body right for that and knowing that just from a pure coverage standpoint, he could probably use a little bit more strength, handling guys up front.
Yeah, it's true. And again, he was 190 last year. You know who jumped out at me besides Lovett?
Who's that?
Thomas Williams went from 180 to 190 or 189. But again, 10 pounds up. He saw significant action last year out there. So I like the look of that. Josh Clark, I'd like to have seen him get a little bit more. 185 is not bad. But again, as we talked before we joined tonight, and Brian, how much weight did you lose during the season, give or take?
Usually about 8 to 10 pounds.
So that's one reason when you look about where a guy's starting from, why is it important? Well, and you're not losing just weight, you're losing muscle because of how hard you're working, how hard you're playing, how much you're practicing. So I wish I would have seen Josh Clark up to 190, but that is what it is. I will say this. I don't know if this jumped out at me, but it was just kind of like, Deloche, in the words of Tally, get that man some food. Get him steak, get him some chicken, give him anything you can. Get some weight on Jamari Deloche. Because I think he has talent in 165, you ain't playing much.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna need to see about another 10 pounds before you start working him into the rotation there. He needs to at least be up there in Christian Williams' range there. I know it probably isn't much difference with Williams there at 6'1" versus Deloach at 5'10", but as far as frame is concerned, but yeah, you'd like to see him at least be up there in that 175 range before you start trying to work him in pretty heavily there. And I mean, looking at this unit, I mean, we went from a very senior and junior laden unit to a lot of redshirt sophomores, freshmen, a couple juniors. No senior leadership in that room. I think that's going to be a big role that I think Dante Lovett is going to have to step into as being the leader of that unit from both a experience standpoint and just a seniority standpoint as well.
Yeah, 100%. So there's the cornerback room. All right, this is always the fun room. There are two fun rooms to do when you're doing, or three technically, because I consider linebacker. But let's look at defensive line room, Brian. Let's go down there. And, this came out a few days ago. You looked at it, you digested it. But of the guys on the defensive line, whether inside or out, when you started looking, where did you go, whoa?
I mean, I went a couple different places. Emmett Laws is the one that jumped out to me the most.
Thank you.
I feel we've had two position groups. I've got two DeMatha kids in my list. I'm not just like going after all the DeMatha kids here, but hey, sometimes them the breaks.
No doubt, man. He came in like 280 last year. He was it's more impressive that when he ended high school, he was like 265, 270. And he's damn near 295 now. He eats. And I think I saw one of the videos from it. It ain't all fat.
Oh, no. Dude's
it ain't all fat. So that was really good to see with him. I'm gonna stay inside. Christian Evans coming in 6'2", 290 already as a true freshman. He should be, in the words of Tally, he should be going to his senior prom, and he is practicing on a football field at Virginia Tech. Yep. And he's got a chip because if y'all remember, we kept talking about it. Remember, he basically won the Under Armour games up in Maryland, did not get any love from anybody, and he comes in as an absolute unit already. I don't know if he'll play this year, but he ain't far from it.
Yep. Let's talk about a couple other guys real quick too, Curtis.
Yeah.
Let's start with James Jonkum. So two things came out of this. Everybody hates his number, and he is firmly in the defensive line group, meaning he's likely going to be playing edge in this system, right? So I think we've learned those two things.
100%.
From this roster is seeing his number, hating it, and understanding he's going to be that edge position and not some sort of linebacker role that he played in his previous stop. So
no, definitely edge with that. Speaking of edges, I love seeing Burgos put on good weight. I love seeing Abby put on the good weight because they're gonna need it this year. Asen Stevens as well.
Let's talk about your boy Jazari Priester.
So, everybody questioned, why did they go get this kid from down at Hampton? And it was like, because there were rumors, 6'5" to 6'8". Basically, nobody had him over 300 pounds. It was like, he's like 270, 280. And I first thought we heard, that's okay. He's young. Get him in the weight room. 6'5", 312 pounds.
That's a big boy.
That is that may be height-wise to weight-wise. I'm trying to go back, and I'm going to look at some old ones here. That might be one of the bigger, and y'all out there that can shake my memory, that might be one of the biggest He
It's
might
cer-
be one of
it's
the
certainly
biggest
the tallest to girth ratio defensive lineman we've had.
ever.
Now, and it's funny, like you see him at that weight, and you got a guy like Andrew Hanchuk coming over playing offensive line, same height, and 30 pounds lighter. That's to me, that's wild. And I mean, it sounds like the guy can move pretty well too. I don't know if he's still moving at 312 like he was moving at, the 280, 290 range that they had him at coming over. But yeah, I mean, that's about 20 pounds heavier than I was expecting him to come in at. So
it's kind of wild, and I'm trying to go to the archives here.
and I mean, we'll take the grain of salt that, these are the official heights and weights. I'm sure this is not a 1,000% accurate height and weight listing, but I mean, this is what's being put out there. This is what's being put in the program. So,
All right, you know who it was?
who's that?
Settle was pretty close to that. Settle's like 6'3", like 315,
Okay.
and we know what Tim did. Tim
Yeah.
was, for the 3 years he was here, he was unbelievable. But that is a lot of man, and if we're talking about we need a 1 or a 0, if he can get the right leverage, you might have your nose to go true with the true 3-man front. Let's hit a couple other guys here on the defensive line. One, and I don't know if I'm underwhelmed, but Arius Nash, under 280 pounds. I know he's a 3-tech. I know that's not his game. But did you want to see a little more from him, or do you feel like, you know what, that he played that at D2? He played against Alabama at that with Mercer. He cut through those guys. Or do you feel like he's got his role? He doesn't need to gain weight. This is his role.
So I want to see how we're deploying him. Is he going to be a frontline player in every formation that we have? If he's going to be that 4-eye and kind of move, potentially a little bit wider when we go into an odd front, then, I think that's going to be plenty sufficient in most cases. There might be a couple teams that are, power run focused that might have a little something to say about that. But for most of our roster is more spread oriented and less smash mouth. I don't think he's going to have a problem playing the 4-eye at that.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
BTW, FYI. Visit Nexplanon.com RN to learn about Nexplanon. It's an adjustable implant, 68 milligrams radiopaque. Or ask your HCP IRL. Okay, TTYL.
Got it. All right. Anybody else on the defensive line? I mean, you got Bell like 6'1", 235, but I mean, we've seen undersized defensive linemen and edge guys before, so that's not a like.
Yeah, that's still not super undersized. Obviously, Jonko's probably a little bit heavier there. He's at 258, kind of playing at a little bit taller there, but I think those probably are going to be your two primary edge guys with
Stevens, Abbey, and Burgos.
Exactly, those guys are going to be mixing in there. I'm sure Burgos is going to get kind of that first run along with Bell and Jonko as far as like who's going to be first guys out there. And then the other guys are going to be fighting for the second unit.
100%. So again, I think overall in a good spot defensive line was. There is nothing like jumping up that scares me that says, okay, we are significantly undersized here. This is going to be a problem for power run teams. So we'll roll on. Linebacker room. Linebacker room is always a weird one.
We're skipping kickers.
You mean go kickers?
No.
Let's see.
No, I don't.
Kyle Lowe lost a pound.
All right.
There we go. Kyle Lowe lost.
He went from 200 to 199.
Hey, he had a goal. Got more toned.
That's right. That's right. It was cut season.
Yeah, linebacker room. Obviously, the way it's looking, Woodson, Keller's probably going to be given the jobs. Woodson up a little bit from last year. Keller about the same. But to me, let's
not
look
so fast, my friend.
What's that?
I like Woodson blocked in there. We'll see about Keller.
Hey, where is it? Hold on. Wait a second. There was a good one in the chat a little while ago. Gotta find it. That's a good one, Josh. That's a good one. Well, let's be realistic. I don't think they're going to be putting Jordan. But with what happened, he's obviously in the doghouse right now. But Jordan Bass, I mean, dude, he's 205. I don't think you can play him at the linebacker position this year. Now, luckily, he's a true junior, so you have a red shirt to burn.
So that's the question: is do you end up throwing a red shirt on him? Is a guy like Caleb Spencer going to work in there? There's talk of him moving to Mike. There's talk of him, kind of playing both of the linebacker positions there. It sounds like he's moving fully away from a star safety type role. This is going to very much be a linebacker position for him. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out. Obviously, we know Gabe Williams working back from injury. Numbers there don't shock me too much because he wasn't able to do anything this offseason.
No, not at all. No chance to gain.
Brett Clatterbaugh coming in at 6'2", 243 is nice and what you like to see.
Well, as long as it ain't fat. But, 243, you can trim 10 pounds of that nice. Brian, you said something else. McDonald brothers, man. Tough to believe, right?
Yeah, we got the McDonald brothers are now redshirt juniors. Redshirt seniors. And it seems like just so when we started this whole shebang, that was their class. That was their recruiting class coming out. So it's wild that in the ride so far, we've lived through the McDonald cycle, and we're about to fully cycle through the McDonald twins. So shout out to them. Shout out to them not really seeing the field that much last year. I don't know. That was a big shift from 23 to 24 with them kind of being very, very heavy in the rotation. Especially looking at which one is it?
Jaden's a linebacker.
Jaden, yeah.
Jordan's
Jaden had the heavy rotation at linebacker. So it was funny seeing him kind of really fall out of favor in that rotation.
Yep. So, linebacker room, some good games. I mean, I think over the last few years we had not seen nobody deficient. And I mean, I think with Jordan Bass right now with everything going on, hold on. You can't say that, Josh, until he plays. Depends on what he is. And you know what? There were times the last 2 years, defense would have been a hell of a lot better with a Dax type who would have been getting to the right spot. Would have prevented a lot of big-ass touchdowns. Even if it would have been maybe a second late, at least something would have happened. I always say that. All right. Brian, anything on the long snappers as we move down here?
No.
Okay. The big one, offensive line. I know, again, do you take them with a grain of salt? Yes. But, when they put somebody like Brody at 6'7", 332, I don't think he's 285 at all. And just looking at some pictures, he ain't 285.
So what are the gains for Brody? What was he last year?
Brody Gaines would have been. Gotta find the name. Only 5 pounds. He was 327 last year.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, progress,
getting bigger, getting stronger, hopefully.
I like seeing Tomas Rimac come in at 6'6", 317.
Yes.
I think if not initially, maybe eventually he's going to be, your left tackle. He could end up sliding into guard. He played guard a lot at West Virginia. He's a swing guy that can play both positions. When I look at the tape, I like Johnny Garrett a whole lot more at right tackle than I do left tackle.
Oh, 100%.
So if that's what we're operating under, then I'm hoping that Rimac can pull out a starting role there at left tackle. But that's good. And you're looking at this group, I still feel better. Even losing 2 guys that we thought would be starters on this, I still feel better about with what we got in the portal.
Yeah.
Better about this unit overall than I felt about last year's unit.
100%. We did lose.
There's not a glaring hole. the glaring hole is not there anymore. We know who the glaring hole is. We don't need to say his name. The glaring hole is not there anymore.
No, but the question is, can someone fill that glaring hole and not become the glaring hole? And I think overall, it just, again, with the majority of these guys, we're
saying glaring, not glory. Glaring hole.
Who put glory? I said glaring. I didn't say glory. All right. But I think overall, you just look at the room in general, it's built, you're not sitting out here again. I felt like for years it was just like, we are so fucking undersized. This isn't even funny, but I don't feel that way anymore. And I think when we come back in a couple weeks, Brian, definitely we want to hammer what we think the best and the most optimal line is going to be. Yeah, Stoller's huge. Now, how quick can he take a step? Because physical-wise, he is a monster. With decent feet, right, Brian? Carter Stoller had decent feet.
Good enough.
He's not tripping over himself yet. But, I mean...
So he looked a lot... So thinking about big guys that are coming out, he looked a whole lot better than Brody did coming out.
There you go. And there was a reason he was a little bit higher rated. All righty. Let's go to the quarterback room, because you texted me this like right off the bat. You like, look at that, Curtis, and I'm like pulling it up. What was it, Brian? What did you text me that day?
We got Pop over 2 bills
at 5'11" at 2 bills.
5'11", 2 bills, baby. If the concern is about his frame, he's starting to fill that out a little bit.
He is doing what we said he needed to do. He had to do that. He had to fill out. He could not stick in that 185 to 190 range with how any of these offenses are going to go and with what he has to do. And you love seeing it because it tells you, from my aspect, is he knew it. He knew he needed to get gains. He needed to get stronger in the weight room. He needed to put on those pounds, and he did it, which to me says there's that work ethic there. He wants it. He effectively is the backup quarterback. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how he looks in spring. Other than the quarterback room, I think Brand coming in really big. Really big. If you get to go to the spring game, see if you can get 12 and 18 near each other and try to snap a picture of it, Brian, between, okay, here's both guys being classified as 6'2", 195, 210. Probably be a little difference up in here.
Yep. And I mean, when we talked about it, we were comparing Ryan and Brand. I mean, we kind of said, okay, well, Ryan is definitely like a bigger, taller Pop coming out, right?
Yeah.
Like that's kind of just looking at the way they played, looking at everything, a little bit more polished, maybe throwing the ball than Pop was initially coming out, but very similar style and overall frame, if not looking at the weight itself. But yeah, AJ is a big dude coming in, 6'2", 210. I mean, you can see him very much in the same mold of Kyron as far as how if he fills out some more, being in that 225, 230, Kyron up at 235 on his own right there. So you could see him definitely filling out to that level as he kind of progresses through his career.
Yep, 100%, 100%. All right, let's go down to running backs. A room that is absolutely banged up right now. We know Overton's out for the spring. We know the kid from Bowling Green won't be down until summer. I think that's, as silly as this sounds like, I'm okay with that because his style and how he ran last year, like, I don't think he needs spring. Just get him into fall camp and then turn him loose during the season. But
well, the thing that sucks is not getting him in I think the weight program with the team is the bigger loss than necessarily the spring practice.
True, but I mean, let me do a little something here. Let me pivot back to that in a second. But take a look there, Brian, and just look at the running back room. I mean, does anything worry you? Like, it seems like everybody's at a good weight. You got Coney, Mason, Bennett, and Hawkins, along with the kid from Bowling Green coming out. Does anything stand out to you?
I wasn't expecting to see Hawkins at 219.
Yeah, 10-pound gain from where he was at D2 last year.
Yeah, so I think that's, that bodes well for his transition to this level. Playing at 5'11", still being more of a pass catching threat than I think we'll see from Terrion Stewart when he comes in. So I'm excited to see what he's doing. He's apparently probably going to get a decent amount of run in the spring, I would imagine, with everyone banged up.
Well, Coney. You heard the thing about Coney being out there grinding through, and I'm assuming if he's practiced the way he's practicing, I'm assuming Nick's for Coney, but he will be important. By the way, Stewart 5'9", 220 last year at Bowling Green. So I think he's fine. I mean, why isn't he here? I think the story is he's got a class he's got to complete. But again, nothing has jumped out. And I think we've said that a couple times, right? And we've got a couple more rooms just to kind of overall look at. But nothing jumps out as saying, are we significantly worse than where we were last year? And in some areas, like offensive line, we're probably better than we were last year. Linebacker room, with the emergence of Caleb Woodson, we're probably a little bit better than we were last year. Yeah. So,
I mean, looking at offensive line, like, we don't have anyone that I think is as good as Chaplin, but I think in aggregate, we're a lot better.
The worst current offensive lineman that's going to get playing time is better than what we had last year.
Yeah.
Yep. Robbie hit up about Mason. I was going to mention that before we rolled on, but Tyler Mason from down in Mount Airy, North Carolina, bulked up 200, came in at 198. So he is down at that kind of the level. Like, okay, you can play a full season. If we need you, your body is ready for it. Safety room, I think, is going to be – we can look at them. I think literally, Brian, if we look at everybody that's in the safety room, their heights, weights, it's all fine. Fine. Safety is going to be more interesting to probably talk about in a couple weeks, where we're going to try to throw darts at where people are going to play, and then when we actually see the game. Because as you look through that, I mean – shortest guy's 5'11", lightest guy's 185. That's safeties. Heaviest guy's 205.
And the guy that's 185 is kind of a guy that played a lot of nickel and corner.
So makes sense, right?
Yep.
again, I think that room, once we see, probably, Brian, as you're sitting live at Lane, writing your numbers out, figuring out where Koval is, where's Flowers is, where's Ellis, where's Cash. That's kind of going to be the interesting piece, because of those 4 guys that came in, Flowers does have 1 year of eligibility left. Is that going to go is that going to be a deterrent factor of who plays where? We don't know. We feel very confident about Reddish. We'll talk about that in a few weeks. Tight end room. Yeah. Yep. They're there. Everybody stay healthy.
Everybody stayed healthy. We're not really adding anyone to the room, in theory. Nope. So this room kind of is mostly stagnant. I think you feel really good about Benji. You feel pretty good about HSG and Zeke. I think everybody else is a big question mark. And I don't think they need to be anything more than that this year. I think that's going to be the guys that you're leaning on in this offense this year.
100%. All right, last position group here before we wrap up the night. That's the wide receiver group. And let's just, you talked about what he can be used. And, man, if he ain't built like Deebo Samuel was when he was down at South Carolina, give me some stats on Cam Seldon, Brian.
All right, Cam Seldon. Let's find Cam Seldon. He is 6'1", 211. 6'1", 211. Again, we talked about the running back builds. We just kind of came from that area, and you hear that, and you're like, all right, yeah, that's a running back. And that's a wide receiver that's going to be playing like a running back. And I'm interested to see him in action, because he's the guy that I think excited me the most, even though he's a guy that I think there's still a lot of question marks on because of the position change that, it's gonna be interesting to see how we deploy him. Is he going to be a guy that's going to do some stuff out of the backfield occasionally? Probably, but I think he's really going to be that guy that you want to get the ball in their hands in that, that, like I said earlier, that 3 to 8 yard range, and just let them be a guy in space.
Well, first of all, Deebo Samuel senior year, 6'2", 210. And if you look at him, the build is there. I think, Brian, what excites me about Seldon so much, again, in looking at some of Montgomery's game film, it's those 3 yard drags. It's those flat routes. Because his build, if you were going to say, we're going to put a cornerback on him, it will have to be your best tackling corner. It will have to be your most physical corner. But there are going to be some corners, in my opinion, that are not going to tackle him. Yeah. I just believe that. They're not going to be able to tackle him. And then it becomes, there's your nightmare mismatch. You know what? We're going to throw the safety on him. We're going to put a linebacker on him. Okay, we know he was, where he came out in high school, he was an athlete. He was an elite athlete. It's why he got so highly recruited. It's why he got there, because he does have that explosion. It just pops. And if they deploy him right, especially having Donovan Green, kind of that elder statesman who is kind of the route technician, and then the way Aiden Green has exploded with his explosive, not even counting some of the other guys on here, like Chan's, Keelan, excuse me, don't want to get in trouble with anybody, Keelan Adams. Yeah, I ain't crazy. There is a chance I meet his mama one day. I don't want to get popped
That's
upside
right.
the
That's
head.
right. You got to keep it right.
Keep it right.
And it's going to be. I'm excited to see how Keelan and Chan's work into this rotation. Obviously, we know Aiden is kind of the established guy here from a just experience with this group perspective. Yeah. We know Donovan Green is bringing probably the most overall experience to the room, new to this team, but we have kind of the law firm of Green and Green out there at wide receiver. I'm going to be, I'm going to have to make a poster or something like that at some point. when we go to a game this year for that one. I'm interested. I think that this wide receiver room, I think this is, we're kind of looking at the same thing that we were talking about in the offensive line room. Once everybody gets healthy, is that, in aggregate, I think this wide receiver room could be better than the group we had last year, even if you don't have the highest of highs that you had with a Jalen Lane.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I think overall, from that game perspective, nothing stands out. You don't feel like we're undersized anywhere. You don't feel like we're going to give up physicality anywhere. So not only shout out to what's going on with Ferg, but also with the prior staff getting us back on track. So again, Deej Galt, who went to Marshall, he may not have had everything locked down, but as far as getting guys to optimal weights, getting them to optimal strength, I think he got us there. I think it's the other piece.
The conditioning piece was where things kind of fell off the
exactly,
off the charts
exactly. And to me, you think about Jared Ferguson playing fullback. He was the prototypical fullback build, and he had the endurance. So, yeah. Brian, let's hit these real quick. Basketball season's effectively over for the Hokies with the women losing earlier this week. Men obviously didn't even make a tournament. Portal going crazy. And then I didn't read all
going legit crazy, like 3 times the entries compared to last year.
Insane insanity. And obviously the Hokies on a better footing for NIL this year. The Whit Babcock statement that I read from Andy Bitter just made me go.
Which one? Which one?
The one about, we didn't really anticipate the basketball market to be like that. What the fuck did you think it was going to be? Oh, everybody's going to spend $100,000 a player.
They took a shot at the folks on Twitter as well. Like, oh, you get your news from Twitter if you think that we stole money from basketball to give it to football. I heard that places that weren't Twitter. I'll just say that much, and we'll move along.
I don't think we stole. I think funds were allocated differently because you misread the room.
Yeah.
Look at Jim. Jim, we hadn't heard from you all night, and Jim, it's a banger at the end.
70% fired.
Pretty
so,
much.
I mean, it sounds like of the due allocation, 75% is going to football.
Yep.
So it's basically mirroring the percentages that the settlement were in terms of the yearly allocation from the general fund. So
75% to football. Was it 15% to men's basketball? Am I right?
That sounds right. I'd have to pull it up again. I was looking at the Bitter tweet earlier.
Well, that's over $3 million just for basketball, not counting probably some other things, not counting house settlement stuff. I'm assuming basketball is probably going to be 5.5, 6.5. Donate, I'm talking guys who are going to be giving money towards NIL specifically for basketball.
Talking about direct funding.
And you should be able to put a decent roster together. And are some are going to go crazy? Absolutely. Some are going to go absolutely crazy. And that is what it is. But with $6 million to fund a basketball team of 12, you should be able to get a couple really good players.
Just don't go after guys that, could potentially be fully suspended for, betting on games. That's
better vetting, please. Better vetting, please.
I mean, we've had 3 years in a row where we've had a player, a guard, a probably starting guard that played minimal or none for this basketball team.
That's
3 years in a row.
And I mean, you can say what you want to say. Is that the difference between a 13 and 19 team and a 19 and 13 team? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But you never know. One last piece before we close it up. Wrestling finishes 11th at the Nationals. I only saw I never saw, they never replayed it, and I never chanced to see it. But from everyone that I've seen Twitter, speaking with a couple other people, Caleb Henson got completely robbed because his takedown was a takedown. And even though the brick was thrown, it should have never been overturned to begin with. It should have been 3-1, and he should be a 2-time national champion. So, but wrestling was younger this year. Caleb's back next year. Eddie Ventriska's back next year. McDougal's back next year. You got like a Jimmy Mullen who's going to be back next year. I'll be interested to see wrestling next year because where they finished this year, it was supposed to be a down year. It was. You don't lose a guy like Mekhi Lewis and a few of the other guys from the last few years and have a lot of young guys come on. But I think the potential's there. And I'm not saying national championship. I'm not crazy, but I think to get individual national championships the possibility is there. And I think to get back in the top 5 is definitely a possibility. I could go through the points, but I do think, and if anybody knows the exact way, I think if Caleb had won, we probably would have been like 7th, not 11th in the final standings, just because of the difference between for the first and second. Quote me if I'm wrong, but anything else you need to unload, man, before we hop off here?
No, I'm glad we got that bitter stuff in there on Witt because that's something that I saw pop through just before we punched it, and we hadn't really talked about really diving into that, but I'm glad we got there because
I'm glad we got a shot in. Just a
shot.
Because I haven't had a chance to read it all. I've been busy as hell this afternoon. I know you were sitting at a tennis match for 3.5 hours.
He did
3.5 hours.
He did well.
He did.
It was about 3. It was about 3 hours.
Yeah, just sitting there. It's all good supporting our kids, man.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Anything breaking on the Twitter sphere?
Not much, man. I think we're good. There's a lot of discussion around the 70% below Clemson thing. I know Jim threw that in there, and I think that was the thing that has stood out to folks the most is that we were that fucking far behind Clemson in NIL for basketball.
Just shows you this is what I'll say, and if you can agree or disagree, there are certain people that are in athletic departments in this era, they're never going to be ADs. And then there are certain people that are. And you, as Virginia Tech, you've got to find the person who understands that concept better than anybody when the next hire is made. Because in my opinion, the next hire is probably going to be made within the next 24 months.
And I think it's two fronts too, because I think you gotta have somebody that is not only well attuned with what NIL is, but I think you need to have somebody that's a little bit more, that does a better job with engaging the alumni and the donor base better than Witt in the sports that count. I think Witt does a pretty good job in some areas, but I think his personality doesn't always inspire confidence, and I think that can trickle down into other areas, not just, okay, fans don't like him because he's bristly or he doesn't not the most personal person when you have an interview style with him. I think he seems to be more relaxed in a conversational tone, but he doesn't do well in kind of if the format is more formal, his personality gets lost somewhere in the shuffle there. And I think, that can turn some folks off a lot of times too. So there's a lot of things that I think we could point to and say, some of this was already endemic here at Virginia Tech before that. And then some of that is Witt has his fingers all over it.
Yep. And you can't do that. You cannot do that. So with that being said, let's wrap up this episode of the Boundary Corner podcast, brought to you by Counts Family Pharmacy. I'm Curtis Wilson.
I'm Brian Siegler.
We are part of the College Huddle Network. Visit the website boundarycornerbc.com to listen to all of our episodes. While you're there, follow us Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, your favorite podcast source. We're on all of them. As always, we got our buddy Jason Long, who is currently in the wonderful city of Denver watching the Joker play. The guy been sending us pics all night. He was so hyped to be out there.
And he was at Red Rock Amphitheater this morning watching the sunrise. So.
That was a gorgeous photo he sent this morning. Pretty awesome, man. He plays us in. He plays us out. Check his website out, jasonlongmusic.com. You can link to his where he's going to be live down in the New River Valley, to his music on Apple, Spotify, his YouTube, and his Facebook pages. We really appreciate y'all all for listening tonight, whether you are here with us live on YouTube or on our podcast. And as always, let's go.
Hokie.